You've probably thought about what that moment will be like when you realize you're in labor and you're about to meet your new baby. But have you stopped to think about what happens when you arrive at the hospital in labor? I'm going to share 5 tips with you today to help you realistically prepare for that moment and know what to expect. Before you even go into labor, you're going to want to know what entrance to use and where to park your car. There's likely to be 2 separate entrances, one that you'll use during the day and another that you'll use at night. There's also likely to be a couple different parking options. There might be one place where you can go for drop-off, another place where you can temporarily park your car while you get settled in, and then a third place where you can park more long-term for the duration of your stay. Asking about these things ahead of time takes all the guesswork out of the situation, so you can keep focusing on your labor, and it'll also help you avoid any surprises as far as time limits go or any kind of parking fees. Another thing you're going to want to know before you arrive is where exactly you go to get checked in. If your hospital's open for hospital tours, this is something they'll definitely cover. Otherwise, just call your hospital and ask them, "Where do I go when I arrive in labor?" And they'll tell you exactly where you need to go to get checked in. During this process, you can expect to turn in any paperwork or maybe fill it out if you haven't already, confirm your identity, and you can also expect to be taken to an exam room where they'll do your initial check and determine if you're ready to be admitted. Once the paperwork is out of the way, the nurse will take you to a nearby exam or birthing room where they will perform an initial assessment. This will include things like checking your vitals, checking on baby's well-being, assessing your cervical readiness, and if you suspect your water's broken, they'll do a test to confirm. The nurse will take all these things into consideration along with how far away you live from the hospital and how well you're coping with your labor to determine if you're ready to be admitted. If you're not quite there yet, the nurse will send you away from the hospital to progress a little bit further before having you come back to be admitted. Remember, we want to do as much early labor as we can before we actually get to the hospital. This helps our labor from feeling really long, and it's also a lot easier to cope with early labor sometimes outside of the hospital. We can more easily distract ourselves outside of those 4 walls. So if you get sent away and the nurse tells you you're not quite ready to be admitted yet, that's okay. Try not to be discouraged. Go somewhere where you feel safe and comfortable, and you can easily progress a little bit further in labor before you're ready to come back and be admitted. After you've been taken up to your birthing room, the first thing you can expect is to change your clothes. You'll either change into a hospital gown or into whatever garments you brought with you that you'd like to labor in. Next, you can expect for your labor and delivery nurse to do a more thorough exam. They'll ask you more detailed questions about your medical history and collect things like urine samples, blood samples, and maybe check your vital signs again, and get you all settled in for your labor. You can expect to be continuously monitored for the first 20 or 30 minutes after you've settled in. This will allow your nurse to get a better handle on how well you're coping, how your baby's doing, and how your labor is progressing. After those initial exams are over, you can expect for your labor and delivery nurse to be in and out of your room. Know that you might not see your doctor or midwife until just before your baby is ready to come into the world. But your labor and delivery nurse will be in constant communication with them, asking questions, expressing any concerns, and keeping them updated on how your labor is progressing. You can expect to spend a good portion of your labor alone in your room with your partner and your doula if you have one. Knowing what to expect when you arrive at the hospital can help you prepare more realistically. Hopefully in early labor, you've set the tone for coping. You've found your rhythm and you've been able to relax. When you arrive at the hospital, it can be a bit distracting. Going through all of the intake exams and getting settled in again, you might lose your rhythm a bit. So when you're preparing, take some time to work on focusing and coping in a busy or maybe a loud environment. This will help you maintain your focus in those less than ideal moments, like when you're checking in. If you want to know more about things like what to pack in your hospital bag, head over to FromPregnantToParent.com. I've got an entire checklist there for you, as well as tons of great information to help you prepare. If you want to prepare more thoroughly about coping techniques, be sure to jump in on one of my classes. I'd love to have you.